everyone. A warm welcome to each of the listeners here, wherever you are joining us from. We are so happy for this event this morning, really excited for what's in store. We have a very, very special guest today joining us with us on Backstage on the Bookosmia room. For those who have just come in, I'm very happy to say that this is Backstage, an audio platform for all of us to come out here and express ourselves. And you're here with Bookosmia, which is the leading creative platform for under 17s. All right, we'll wait for Shobha to join in. Meanwhile, I just want to say that for a lot of us, I think Raja Ravi Verma represents the best of Indian art. But for many of the younger generation, they don't really know him. Some call him an artist extraordinaire, and most think he's the greatest painter India has ever produced. The son of a poet and a Sanskrit scholar, a little boy who began his tryst with art on the walls and soon demolished boundaries with his stupendous artwork. The genius who humanized the depiction of Hindu pantheon and enabled them to travel beyond the surfaces of costly canvases and into the prayer and living rooms of working class homes. He is believed to have made around 7,000 paintings during his lifetime. His subjects gave an identity to India. He portrayed people from different walks of life, caste, and creed no bar. Right from Damayanti talking to a swan, Shakuntala looking for Dushyanta, Nair lady adorning her hair, Shantanu, Matsyagandha. Over 150 years have passed by, but we still talk about these masterpieces, his techniques and usage of colors, which laid the foundation of classical realism. Then why do our kids, who seem to be quite an expert in Harry Potter's and the Avengers series, know a Picasso or a Da Vinci, but even struggle to name this legendary artist or any Indian artist for that matter? That is a perception we want to change. And who better to lead that than the people who are in charge of the future? Our bright youngsters between the ages of 8 to 10 who are the shining beacons for the way forward. I'm really, really happy to welcome you all for this wonderful event. I'm Archana Mohan, co-founder of Bookosmia, and I'm so pleased that today we have with us the illustrious Shobha Tharoor Srinivasan with us. We are here to talk about her latest book, Prince with a Paintbrush, the story of Raja Ravi Verma, which is published by Westland Imprint, Red Panda. Where do I
Hello.
start? Hello, Shobha. Welcome to the chat.
Thank you so much. I'll let you complete your introduction before I jump in.
Yeah, they say that you should always praise someone in front and behind their back. Am I right? That is the idiom, right?
It all depends on whether you're doing the praising or receiving the compliment, but yes.
Well, Shobha, I would say that I don't think it's a praise or it's just something that we're saying to make you look good. I think you are fantastic. And a lot of us have followed your journey through the years with the work you do, not just for writing, but as an advocate and a fundraiser for persons with disabilities. For those who do not know, Shobha is a Californian based voiceover talent. She's a poet, a translator, an editor, and children's author. But she is so much more than that. A former nonprofit development professional, she has spent 2 decades as an advocate and fundraiser for persons with disabilities. She has been a storyteller, a communicator all her adult life, and she uses her passion to draw founders to programs where they can help other people and along with other pursuits like documentaries, educational and journalistic initiatives, audiobooks, and so much more. Her books have been published in India and the US with publishers such as the DC Mango Books, Tulika, Solstice Publishing, and Bharat Babies. Some of you may be aware of her books, which is in the alphabet. Uh, and one of our favorites, How Many Lines in a Limerick? We hope to hear more about that book as we go along. But for now, thank you, Shobha, for joining us. You, very much like Raja Ravi Verma himself, are truly building a very special legacy with you, with your magnificent storytelling. And I know one person who will agree with me on that. That's Nidhi Mishra, our founder and CEO of Bookosmia. And I am Alumna who has pivoted from banking to entrepreneurship to help children feel heard. And as a passionate supporter of the arts, I'm sure she has a lot to say today. Over to you, Nidhi.
Hi everyone. Hi Shobha. How has it been? I
Hello,
realize
Nidhi.
it's very late in the night for you. This is a new platform to join in. Very nice to see you here.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the pluses of launching a book with a new, well, Westland is not a new publishing house, but
Yes.
Red Panda is, and I think I've been exposed to a lot of interesting formats of podcasts, and now this backstage forum that
Yes.
I've never really been part of. So it's interesting. I just assumed we were going to do a video Zoom call, and somebody asked me to talk to kids, and then discovered along the week that this is a
Yeah.
radio audio format. But
Yeah.
it's fun. It's great. I see a lot of names on this page that I'm looking at, and I'm delighted to hear from you, Archana, as well as
Yes.
Nidhi. And I think this whole idea of Bookosmia, the fragrance of books in some ways is or do you call it the taste of books? I think this fragrance, that's the
Yes.
smell of books, correct?
Smell
Isn't
of
that what
books. Yeah,
osmia
that's
is?
right. Smell of books.
So yes, in a sense, it's the fragrance of literature, the way words imprint on our psyches, on our imaginations,
Yes.
in our hearts, transport us when we can't move with our feet or get on a plane. During lockdown, there's nothing more special than books. So
Yes.
wonderful that all of you are doing so many interesting ways of keeping children engaged. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
giving me an opportunity to talk about Prince with a Paintbrush.
Yeah, thanks so
And
much, Shobha. I think I couldn't agree more. We have to kind of catch up with this whole young audience. So audio is the new thing, and we
right,
also had to take to this new platform, audio rooms. I do feel they're good in certain ways where the child is not under any performance pressure about how they're looking and how's the background, but only their voice matters. So I'm very very glad that there are so many
love that.
Bookosmians I see here and so many others as well. So, Shobha, it is amazing to have you here. Archana read out your amazing bio. I'm glad that kids are getting exposed to both authors as well as the kind of topics that you're talking about. So that's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know when we were exchanging mails, we shared with you that Bookosmia is a for kids by kids platform. We're one of the very few, I think, who do publish what children have to say. And that comes from, I think, the team feeling very strongly about me as myself. I know as a mother of two little girls, as a founder of children's content,
Hmm.
very strongly that while it's our job to provide great input, and I think your book is an example of a great input to kids, but at the same time to pause for an output and see what children feel about things rather than telling this is how you should feel about things. So that's
Oh,
where
absolutely.
Bookosmia started. And we're very happy to say that kids from around 115 locations worldwide, from very tiny districts in India to its metros to, say, Barcelona, Dallas, everywhere, write into us. And we feel so good that we're choosing this platform as a place that they can feel heard at. So that is the idea behind getting this interactive audience for you as well. I know there are so many sessions that you've done with various people. So we'll
But
try
honestly,
to.
this is the first time I've done backstage, so
Yes,
you'll have to bear with me as I'm
you're
so
doing
used to
just
sort of
fine, Shobha. You're doing
looking at the
brilliantly.
children and seeing hands raised and responding to all of
Yes,
that. And instead, here
yeah,
I'm not looking at my phone. I have my AirPod on, and
perfect.
I'm just waiting for questions.
Yes,
You've left things in a sort of free flow format, so I'm not going to give a big bhashan about Prince with a paintbrush. I
yeah,
understand that most of the children on this platform today have are familiar with the book or have they read the book? Is that something that
yes.
I?
Yes,
Okay,
many of
all
them
of
had
them or
read the
just
book
some of them?
and they may have read
Okay.
a lot more. In fact, I know from our own audience that they've kind of made them well versed about the whole subject. So, Archana,
Oh
over
my
to
God.
you. Let's get this rolling.
Right.
And before I do that, Archana herself is a very amazing author. She has won prizes for her writing at the Commonwealth level as well. She's the author of
Oh,
Yaksha.
wonderful.
I do see
Excellent.
a beautiful similarity in the book Yaksha that Archana had authored and Shobha's Prince with a Paintbrush
With
is about how both the Yakshagana dance form and the painter in question here tried to
uh-huh.
break traditional stereotypes of access to gods and goddesses only to a certain segment of the society. So, Ashna, I'm sure you'd be excited about finding that similarity. And let's roll
Oh,
with it.
that's interesting. I'm sorry I'm
Yes,
not familiar with your book, Archana, but absolutely. I mean, Ravi Verma, I think, is noted also for the fact that it's after his lithographic press made copies of the art that he had created of many gods and goddesses, that in many ways people were able to bring God home. And these were very often homes where people did not have access to temples, etc. So,
that
it's
is so beautiful.
eh,
Yeah.
and by producing so many copies of art no longer was limited to art curators and the wealthy who could be patrons of artists, but was actually accessible to all. So if your story is dealing with that, then yes, we have a lot of parallels about an artist who broke with tradition as well as made his art accessible for everyone.
Lovely. So,
Thank you, Shobha.
everybody out there, I tell my kids, and I know it's true for all the kids in this generation, having access to an author whose book you're reading is amazing. It's something that you guys have, available as an option with you. It was not there for us when we were growing up. It couldn't be imagined. But I love that the world is becoming smaller, and we have Shobha right here to talk to you about her book. So,
Absolutely, and
carry
I
on,
look
Arshna.
forward to answering questions of any children who have questions or
Thank you,
responses to the
Shobha.
book.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Shobha.
Archana.
And thank you, Nidhi. Absolutely, you've made my day as well. And the day has just started. So this sounds amazing to all of us. And our youngsters are just waiting to come on in and fire the questions. I know, Shobha, you must have a lot of experience in answering the questions of veteran journalists. But this is going to be an absolute new experience for you also, I think, where our youngsters have absolutely no barriers. And I think that's what makes them beautiful.
And I
All,
certainly hope I don't disappoint them
no, no, you are
with my
fabulous, Shobha.
responses, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm certainly looking forward to it.
For sure. Thank you, Shobha. And now we'll start with Prisha Moitra from Kolkata. She's a veteran Bookosmian. She writes a lot on a lot of subjects. Over to you, Prisha.
Hello everyone, my name is Prisha Moitra. First, I would like to tell Shobha ma'am that I love every bit of the book she has written. It is packed with information about the life and work of Raja Ravi Verma, none of which I knew. The vivid illustrations on each page made the story come to life. But one thing that really stood out for me was the way that the story was narrated. How the little boy's thoughts and opinions are weaved with the facts about the artist's life and his paintings. For example, on page 7, the boy is saying that Raja Ravi Verma's parents seemed very nice since they were so understanding and forgiving of his art on the walls. And on page 13, where the boy is saying that it made complete sense to him that Ravi Verma liked to paint people precisely as they look. This made the story so much more interesting for me to read and remember, as I could easily relate with what the child was saying. Ma'am, I have two questions.
Please.
First, yes, ma'am, why did you choose to particularly write about Raja Ravi Verma and not any other Indian artist?
Very good question, Krisha. First of all, thank you so much for your excellent review of the book, your personal commentary, as well as
Thank
the
you,
fact
ma'am.
that you enjoyed it. It makes me so happy. Every time I write a book, the pleasure in it is how it is received by young readers such as yourself. I did frame this book having a narrator sort of engaging, so the book is framed from the perspective of a young 8-year-old. I had
Mm.
envisioned a little girl, and Raika has illustrated the narrator as a girl, but you're right, it could be a boy or a girl. It doesn't really matter. It is a young child wanting to discover about the artist, and so that's how the book has been framed. So I'm so glad you enjoyed that. And we particularly, because most young readers enjoy the sort of comic book bubble description where where the writer has an opportunity to think aloud. We all the bubbles on the pages are, as you said, the narrator thinking about it. For instance, on page 18, I suppose it's, or I think you already mentioned that, I suppose it's just like the many versions that I've drawn of my sister, says the little narrator. So all of that is exactly as you observed. Now, you asked why Ravi Verma. Why Ravi Verma? A couple of reasons. One is, I'll be honest with you, it's a little personal story. I grew up, my parents are originally from Kerala, Krisha, and
Mm.
every summer when I was growing up, we used to go to Kerala for the summer holidays to my grandmother's home, which was the large place. It's what we call a taravad, which is an ancestral home where family members gather, and all of us used to come, cousins and everybody, and gather together in the summer. And I'd spend a month and a half there every summer. And one of the things I remember so distinctly, and I remembered this even when I started writing the book, was that we had these paintings where they were actually prints, they were just lithographic prints, not original paintings, but all these images from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata up on the wall. It wasn't so much some of the other art that you see in this book, but a lot from the Puranas and the epics on the wall. And I remember those paintings were springboards in some ways to storytelling sessions, first from my grandmother when she was, when there were fewer mouths to feed, in other words, there were fewer visitors, she would engage and tell us stories. And later it became my older aunts who would tell us stories. But they would start with those stories by looking at the pictures and talking to us. So, for instance, there's a picture of Jatayu Vad in this book. That was on the wall over there as well. And so we could hear the story of from the Ramayana. And so I always remembered Raja Ravi Verma. And of course, I understand that, I'm of a different generation and, I would need to introduce it to my children and grandchildren. But we, of my generation, were quite familiar with Ravi Verma because we even had pictures or paintings, or rather prints of gods in our puja rooms that were Ravi Verma paintings. So he was very much part of our consciousness as a Malayali artist. But more than that, he appealed to me the more I read about him and decided I wanted to write the story for a couple of reasons. He made art accessible to everyone, and we talked about that briefly. His art is, people don't even realize it, but his art has informed even, Amar Chitra Katha's style of painting. His Dada Saheb Phalke, who was considered one of the
Mm.
gurus of the Bollywood film industry, was actually somebody who, as a young man, had worked in this printing press. And a lot of the lithographs he saw inspired his own sort of creative, the Bollywood posters of old times. If you, I mean, your parents might tell you about them. They're very, very much like a lot of them. The vibrancy, the realism is all very much like Ravi Verma paintings. So actually, Ravi Verma has informed a
Mm.
lot of art and culture throughout the country, but a lot of people don't know whose work that is. And so it was time, I thought, to bring it back into the forefront to share one of our greatest artists with the world and with youngsters today, because what you know today you will share with your own youngsters someday in the future. I hope I've answered your
Oh,
question. Was
yes,
there a
ma'am.
second part to it? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I have one
Thank
more
you.
question. Ma'am,
Yes, Prisha.
I love to write,
Yeah.
but sometimes when I put down my thoughts on pen and paper, they all seem jumbled up, sometimes even unrelated to the topic I've selected for writing. Ma'am, can you give me a few tips for effective writing?
Oh, that's very sweet of you. Well, jumbled up is perfectly fine. There is no, if you read, I think Ruskin Bond wrote a book called How to Be a Writer recently, because when I was in India, people were talking about it. There isn't really a right way or a wrong way to write, especially at your age when you're sitting down to write. If you have something you want to think about and you want to put it down, those jumbles are like little pockets of information that can all be pulled together into the story at some point. So instead of being critical of your own particular creative skill, just sit down and write. It helps sometimes to have prompts to do the writing. So I teach a class on poetry, and we just bring a whole bunch of words together sometimes and see, can we make this into a poem. So similarly, when you're writing a storybook, if you have different ideas, put them on a piece of paper, write them out on that page, and then say, okay, where can I pull from each of these thoughts to maybe come up with some kind of idea or thesis? So that's like a game. It's a wonderful word game or a wonderful creative writing exercise. Give it a shot and see. Don't think that there's only one way of doing something. I hope I was helpful.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your tips.
Thank you for asking such astute questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Krisha, for those lovely questions. I think, especially your second question, was something that a lot of us here on the chat, and I'm not talking about the children alone, I think a lot of us wanted to ask that to Shobha, and I'm so glad that you did that for all of us. And thank you, Shobha, for that amazing observation. And the Ruskin Bond book is something we all recommend here. So, yeah, if you haven't, do check that book out. Thank you for that, Prisha. It was lovely to hear from you. We'll now ask Navneer Bhattacharya from Kolkata to unmute and speak. And if you look at his profile picture, he has your book on his profile picture, Shobha.
I
Oh,
love
wow,
that.
I should look at the picture. Let me look at that. Oh, how special is that? That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Come on in, Navneer. Tell us about yourself and tell us about the book, your thoughts.
Yes. Uh, Greetings to all. I am Navani Bhattacharya from Kolkata, and my school is Birla High. So now I'm going to first express my view about this book. Shobha ma'am, the whole book was really remarkable, but the best thing in the book was the more cool facts about Raja Ravi Verma. That gives a lot of information about him. You know, ma'am, when I received the book, I was immensely impressed by the vibrant color of the book. It's so colorful that it really made the book very eye-catching. The striking cover page with Raja Ravi Verma's image was really remarkable. And no one really can miss the remark by the author Manu Pillai, which is in the first page. Over here it says, delightful, charming book on one of India's most charismatic painters from the pen of an equally delightful and charming children's writer. And then I indeed like the idea of replacing the small I in the word paintbrush with the actual picture of a paintbrush. That was very creative for the illustrator. I believe it's a girl who is saying the story in the first person speech. She and her mother together are exploring Raja Ravi Verma's life. So the funny trivia by the girl made me feel as if I am thinking those things. First, when I was first when I had heard of the book, it was a biography of a painter, so I thought it would be a bit serious. But surprisingly, when I took it up in my hands and started to read, from the first page, it gave me a feeling it would be a bit funny and a bit childish. I went through a lot of emotions when I went through it. I felt proud by his so many achievements. He is really the father of modern art, and we Indians should also be proud that people who are artists from the Indian culture have won so many achievements. I feel happy when I come across the fact that Raja Ravi Verma started the lithography press to make copies of his own paintings so that anyone can afford to buy those paintings and worship them. I also felt sad when I got to know that the printing press got burnt. Really, it's a great loss for Raja Ravi Verma. By reading the book, one thing struck my mind that perhaps Raja Ravi Verma used the real life models to make the portraits of gods and goddesses so that people start believing that they are very close to us. Ma'am, thank you very much for gifting us such a treasure. Ma'am, I have a few questions in my mind. If I am allowed, I would like to ask them.
Well, after that brilliant analysis and observation, how
That
can
was
I,
amazing.
how can I, how can I say no, young man? I'm delighted to answer your questions.
The Hindu,
You
are you
know as much
watching?
about the book as I do, huh?
I said the Hindu
This is
newspaper, are you
wonderful.
watching? We have a art journalist here
Full
sitting
page
right
review
here,
here.
Oh, yeah.
an art
Oh,
critic.
really? Yeah. Right, exactly. Yes, it's wonderful and delightful. And absolutely, he is.
Thank you, ma'am.
Please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. I actually have three questions. My
Okay.
first question is, in the book, it is written that when young Ravi Verma used to paint on the walls, noticing his skill, his uncle Raja Verma took him to the court of the Maharaja of Travancore so
All
that he
right.
can excel in his talent. Again, in page 35 and page 29, it is written that his brother Raja Verma helped him in artistic talents. So is it like
Exactly.
his uncle and his brother both had the same name?
Absolutely, it is, believe it or not. I guess they were not as imaginative and clever as you are, young man, because we have about three Raja Varmas. We also have more than one Mangala Bai. In fact, I was told after I published this book that his own wife, Ravi Verma's wife's other name was Mangala Bai's, and not the name that I had
Oh,
researched and found for her. So they had a lot of, in fact, not just the brother, Ravi Verma's own son is also Rama Verma. So there's always Raja Verma, Rama Verma.
yes,
There's
yes,
many of them.
yes.
So it wasn't a misprint. They were both Raja Verma, the uncle as well as the brother.
Oh,
Uh, so that
okay.
question is answered.
Thanks,
Um,
Navonir. I think
Yes,
that
ma'am.
question was
Thank
on
you
all
for
our
clearing
minds.
this out.
Yeah.
and
Thank you
thank
for
you.
clearing this out.
Not at all. I wanted to just comment a little bit on the fact that you noticed the cool facts about Ravi Verma at the back. It's something that I was so excited to write because I think it really makes the book a lot of fun for people and for readers.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
do,
And in the
and
last
I
page, the
encourage you.
thing that really attracted me was the small trivia which said perhaps Ravi Verma knew that all work and no play makes Ravi a dull boy.
I'm so glad you enjoyed that. Yes, I had to work with the illustrator and the publisher. We suggested, can we bring in some of these little reflections on the fun facts page as well? And it worked out perfectly. You
Yes,
commended
ma'am.
the artwork and the cover, and I really am I'm very impressed and I'm grateful to you for noticing it. I think this is a beautifully produced book, and I give full marks to the publishers for doing that. And then, of course, the illustrator, Raika Sen, has done an outstanding job of
Right,
keeping with the spirit as she's drawn a girl. She's drawn a character with character, and that makes it so much more
right,
appealing to children when you pick it up. When you pick up the book. So, she's really worked with my text in the most amazing way. And she's allowed, we didn't want the art to get in the way of the original artist's work, which is, imprinted on the pages. And so she sort of takes from the art to illustrate the book as well, which is really brilliant. So I am grateful that I had someone so wonderful to support me in the
yes,
writing of this book
ma'am.
in terms of illustration. So thank you.
Thank you, Navneer, and that was wonderful. We are having so much time with this. Navneer, we encourage you to put your questions on the chat as well, so that all of our speakers get a chance to ask their questions. Thank you so much for your
Sure,
lovely
ma'am. Sure.
questions, Navneer. It was really a pleasure to listen to you, and we've already said that you probably have a job waiting for you as an art critic in the future. All right. All the best, Navani. Thank you for
Or a
joining
book
us.
reviewer.
A book reviewer, an art critic. He could be anything he wants to. Thank you, Navani.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Navani. We'll now go to Dhruva. So, Dhruva from Bangalore, please go ahead and unmute yourself. Tell us about yourself and the book. Go ahead, Dhruva.
Hello everyone, my name is Dhruva Shrikant from Bangalore, and I really like the book.
Yes, Dhruva?
Dhruva, do you want to talk about one particular aspect of the book that you like the most before you shoot your question?
Yes. I really like the fun facts page also. And then the
That's
speech
good.
bubbles also, they were very interesting.
Wow, so good to see that the fun facts are a
Thank
huge
you.
hit with the kids. I think that's the best way to get real information across, and clearly it's working. So that's wonderful. Do you have a
Wonderful.
question, Dhruva?
And one more question. When the teacher asked the children if they knew any artist,
Yes.
why didn't the girl directly raise her hand and not wait until the teacher asked for an Indian artist?
Well, the teacher initially started out by saying if anybody could name a famous artist, right? So she immediately raised her hand because Vincent van Gogh is a famous artist. So she raised her hand and remembered the Starry
No, I
Skies.
meant why didn't the boy actually raise? Why didn't the person who said Raja Ravi Verma raise his hand before the teacher?
Oh, I see.
Asked
Well,
about an Indian
sometimes
artist.
children are a little shy. Maybe the narrators, who raised hand was just quicker to the button, as they say. I don't know. I mean, that's a good question, but it's all depends on whose eyes, whose hand was seen by the teacher as well, perhaps.
Yeah.
First, that happens sometimes, isn't it?
Yes.
We all try to get a word in, but the teacher happens to notice one child over the other.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Thanks, Dhruva. I think one important part that particular page reflected is how all of us would have struggled for the name of an Indian artist, right? And now that we have read the book, we know of one. But it is still an area which needs a lot of further research, because after Raja Ravi Verma, do we know another Indian artist or not, right? So
Good question.
it kind of underlines the problem that we don't know so much about our own people, amazing, great artists, so close, physically
True.
in the same country, but we kind of know a lot more about others. And a great way to fill that gap is to talk more about people who are doing well here as well and keep tuned into that. So thanks for picking
Yes,
that point,
absolutely.
Prabha.
Yes, very good point. And in fact, that is definitely a reason why the book was written. I had four other book ideas about artists as well, but now I've been diverted into doing other projects with publishers. But it takes a lot to produce a book, a children's art. This is almost like an art book, right? The paintings are in the public domain in the case of Raja Ravi Verma. But if we were to come up with a newer artist or a contemporary Indian artist, it would be harder to do to be able to represent the art in a children's book. We would have to get permission from estates or from families or from trusts or from the artists themselves. But it is important. It is important for us to see what we have at home, as they say. Ghar ki murgi dal barabar. I remember that saying when I was growing up, and it's we're
Right.
always looking for it's most of us. I mean, it's everywhere in the world. There's this sort of aspirational need to want to know about other places, but sometimes it's good to just look within yourselves or within your own environment as well as your own country for the talent that exists, because there is a lot of it.
Yes, and I think Shobha, this book, what you started with it, spreading awareness about our own Indian great artists, I think it totally begs a sequel. So I know you lined out all the difficulties which are there, but you're starting something like a movement. So we would love to see. I'm
I've
sure
been
all the kids
asked
will.
by a lot of people actually during interviews.
Yeah,
If they want to see Yamini Roy and a whole bunch of other artists, but
absolutely.
we will one of these days. One of these days, we should. Red Panda should be listening. I don't know if they are. As they
Fingers
say, it costs them
crossed.
a lot of money to bring out a book like this versus a storybook.
Right.
Right.
You already have some suggestions, Shobha, for you on the chat. So do have a look. I'm
Mm.
so glad you guys are firing up the chat. And for all of you who've joined us, so glad that you're here today. Let's just quickly do one quiz question to see how much we know Raja Ravi Verma. There is a crater on a certain planet that's named after him. All right. What planet am I speaking about? Put it in the chat and we will discuss next round. All right. Thank you so much for that, Dhruva. Lovely to hear from you. We'll now go to
No
Adya
problem.
Mishra Rao from Bangalore. Adya,
Hello,
go
my
ahead.
name is Adya and I am 8 years old. I, li- I liked
Hello,
the
Adya.
paintings which Ravi Verma had painted. They looked really real. But I liked the girl also a lot. She was just like me. She's also my age, I think. And my question is, how do you know so much about Raja Ravi Verma?
Well, I told you the story of hearing of seeing some of his art, or rather representations of his art on the walls of my grandmother's house, and then because I liked a lot of the Nair women paintings and the Kerala women, I bought some of those paintings when I first came to America. Not paintings, sorry, I bought the prints of the art home with me to America so that my own children would be exposed to Ravi Verma and be able to recognize a Ravi Verma painting. So I was always interested because of the fact that I had been exposed to this art when I was a child. Um, in terms of knowing more in specific details, I had to obviously do research. I researched from the internet. I read articles. I read excerpts of stories written about him. I read an interview with a relative. I spoke to people from the Raja Ravi Verma Foundation. So there's enough information out there, and this is not a scholarly book or a historical book. It is an illustrated biography, so obviously it needed to be authentic and historically correct in terms of facts and dates and numbers. But my main interest was in framing a story about an artist in a way that appeals to children so that it informs their own art and their own creative process, but they also learn something about a very special man. So that was the approach in terms of learning
So
about
have
the
another
artist, since you
question.
asked.
Did Ravi Verma's paintings go in the Mysore Palace? I've seen his paintings there.
How wonderful. So, some of these, it's a question that I don't really know the answer to, how the art was distributed in different places. I know Lakshmi Vilas Palace in Baroda has a lot of his art. I'm sure the Mysore Palace has a lot of his art. I know the Travancore, I mean, the palace in Trivandrum that I've visited, I've seen a number of original art. Then there are also private collectors who own a lot of art. So if you notice in the beginning of the book, there's a little stuck page that talks about where some of these, the art that's represented in this book. It tells you where you could find some of them. There's a little sticker that we've put that indicates. I'm just trying to think. There comes Papa is in the Travancore Royal Family Palace in Kaudiyar. Something else is in Baroda. Somewhere there's one in the Madhavan Nair Foundation in Kochi. So there are private collectors. There are some of it may have been gifted or given or granted or purchased by the museum. So I don't really know the answer to your question, but it's wonderful that you had an opportunity to see a real, what do you call the original art in the Mysore Palace. So that's fantastic, on the Mysore Museum. Um, Very exciting. I believe the Jatayu Vad painting, I'm trying to remember where it is, But they said that if you looked, I have not seen the original painting, but the original painting is so incredible. I believe you can almost see the drop of blood after he cuts Jatayu's wing, and there's this red drop that's dropping. That's the extent of the realism of the painting. It's supposed to be really quite remarkable. So when you all go out on your visits to museums and to palaces, please look out for some
Thank you,
Ravi
ma'am.
Verma art.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Adya. That was beautiful, and I loved your second question. I think, Shobha, I have actually gone through the
Yes.
book so many times, but the kind of questions that these people have brought, it never even entered my head. That's, I think,
Actually, you're
yeah.
absolutely right. In fact, I was particularly excited when you said that this is a platform for children, by children, and that the children will be asking me questions, because you won't believe it. They've done better in some ways, and I hope not too many journalists are listening, than many of the interview questions I've had, which are very often the same from different newspapers, whereas all of these children have come up with something new. Kudos to you, young people.
Wow, there you heard it from Shobha Tharoor Srinivasan herself. I think you have made all of our days, Shobha. Thank you for that lovely comment. And I had asked you a question in the last, before the question was, what is the name of the planet on which there's a crater named after Raja Ravi Verma? And you guys have just fired it up on the chat. All of you got that right. The answer is Mercury, and it was adopted on June 18, 2016. So well done, all of you. Love that. Now I want to ask.
No, Archana, nobody seemed to have got that wrong. So they've really
I
gobbled
know.
up everything in the book. And I think it served its purpose because now they know so much about Raja Ravi Verma and every little bit about it. So that's wonderful.
That is such a valid
Yeah.
point, Nidhi. I think the thing with this book is it isn't ending. The end isn't the end. When you finish the last page, you want to know more about Raja Ravi Verma, and I think that is the absolute
Thank
beautiful thing
you.
about the book. Children are not just putting it down; they are going to Wikipedia. They are asking their parents, and now in the lockdown, all of us parents are having our kids asking, "Can we please go and see Raja Ravi Verma's paintings?" I'm like, do an online tour. That's the best we can do at the moment. But this is so
Well, I
great.
want to do a little plug, if I may, because
Sure.
this is so exciting that you said that. And if any of you should have the opportunity to pick up any of my other books, that is part of my sort of signature mark, is that every book is for many ages. As they say, it starts, even if it looks like a picture book, which usually people think is for preschoolers, that's not true. All of the books are books that you can, if you're very little, someone can read to you, but when you're older, you can read to yourself. And if you're an adult, you can explore further and learn more about it. My book called Indie Alphabet sounds like a little children's alphabet book, but it's got literature in the poetry that I've written. It's got geography in the pointers of the map, which shows you which part of India we're going to. And at every page has a fun fact at the bottom so you can explore further about, when we talk about Kolkata, what is Howrah Bridge, how many cars go on it every day, what is a cantilever bridge, etc., etc. So, that is the whole sort of thrust of my writing style, is that I definitely want the book to be interesting, engaging, entertaining, but there's always a little bit of an educational element to it. So just wanted to say that. So you know
That's
a little bit more
fantastic,
about me
Shobha.
as a writer. Thank you.
Yes, we did check that book out as well, and I'm really looking forward to getting a copy and then seeing how kids also would find it very exciting. I'm pretty sure. And like you said, not just kids. I think every good piece of content appeals to all age groups, and especially
Thank
children's
you.
books. Where we also want to know what a child is reading. It's so educative, so it appeals to both parents, both kids. It works beautifully. So yeah, we definitely want to check out that book.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you will.
We certainly will, Shobha. I'll now ask Arnav Prasanna from Bangalore to please unmute and speak.
Hi everyone, my name is Arnav and I'm 10 years old. Hello Shobha ma'am.
Hello.
I'm so happy to get this opportunity to speak with you. I read that you're in California. What is the
I
time
am indeed.
now?
It is 10:46 p.m., which means it's 11:15 in India, isn't it?
Yes.
because at this
Okay,
time of the
I think,
year, you are 12 and a half hours ahead of us.
yes. Okay, I think it is past your bedtime. Thank you for still talking to us.
Oh, it was entirely my pleasure. I've so enjoyed listening to your questions, all of you. Gosh, really, I mean, I think children certainly keep adults on their toes, and that's the best thing that you can have if you want to continue to be productive and creative, isn't it, Archana?
Absolutely, Shubham.
Yes.
Well done. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Arnav.
Actually, I had no idea about Raja Ravi Verma before this book. 2 years back, I visited the Fort St. George Museum in Chennai, where some paintings of Raja Ravi Verma's paintings are there.
Oh.
But at that time, I was more interested in the museum snack shop.
I can
Thanks to
understand
this
that
book,
too.
I understood about his great talent. I felt happy that Raja Ravi Verma did so well with his art, but also he had something sad happen for him. He got married early and he painted for almost 9 years and had to take care of his whole family. Also, his press caught fire, but the best part is he continued painting. That's a valuable lesson. The story is written so nicely and illustrations are also very nice. I have a question for Shobha ma'am.
Please go ahead.
On the first page, you wrote, "This book is for my mother Lily, who wished that you would become a painter, a potter, and a poet, all three. Were you able to achieve these dreams?"
Oh, that's I have done some pottery. That is true. I did when my kids were little, and I'd get away on the weekends to do something creative. I have made some pots. I've done it in college as well. I did do some painting, believe it or not. I've painted a lot of oil paintings of India for my own home. It's not for public consumption. I started painting when I was expecting my daughter, and I used to look at photographs I'd taken of my visits to India, and I would paint from those. And so, yes, I have. And poetry is something that I was always interested in. And yes, a lot of my children's books are actually written in verse. So thank you. But yes, this was also teasing my mother a little, because whatever I do, my mother would say, "Oh, but I thought you would do that. I thought you could do something else." So we were sort of teasing her in this. I wanted to dedicate the book to her, but also suggest to her that you wanted me to do everything, Mama, but see here, I've tried to do something.
Thank you, ma'am. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shobha, for sharing that. I think it's such a key requirement to really feel close to your author with all these personal anecdotes. I
Well,
think they make
it
all
gives
the
you that
difference.
opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that.
And when you're getting ready for bed, I think some of the anecdotes are, particularly reflective.
Is that when you write, Shobha?
Actually, I do a lot of writing at night. I am better in the late hours of the day than I am very early in the morning. I remember my father used to always tell me I should get up early and work in the sun, in good sunlight. But somehow I've just got into the habit of having my quiet time. I think when I was a mother too, you had to wait till the children had gone to bed and all of that before you could do the things you needed to do. So I just became a habit, and now I'm more used to doing my sort of personal writing in the evening hours after dinner rather than before. But it's changing. I don't have children in the house anymore, so I can actually write when I want to. Except life always intervenes. One is so busy.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, Shobha. I think a lot of us are night owls over here. Not the kids, you didn't listen to that. Your parents go to sleep at 10, trust me. All right. Thank you, Arna, for that lovely anecdote from your life. We'll now go to Siona Guha from Hyderabad. Siona, go ahead.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, Siona, go ahead.
Yes, good morning. My name is Fiona. I'm from Hyderabad and I'm 10 years old. Thank you, Bookosmia, for sending me this book. I really enjoyed reading it. I really love the illustrations and how the book is narrated in a very interesting way. By far, this is one of the most colorful books I've read. One thing I also liked was the thoughts and opinions of that little girl, because most of them I could relate to. Funny and made me laugh a lot. I also have one question, actually two questions for ma'am.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yes, the one is that I was really curious about that little girl's thoughts and opinions that showed up in the middle of the book. You said that you also saw the many paintings of Raja Ravi Verma when you were young. Did you also get those thoughts and opinions when you were seeing the paintings for the first time, or did you get them now while writing the book?
Very good question, Sona. I would say that most of the questions that are in these little thought bubbles were questions that occurred to me that children would want to ask, and so they came to me while I was writing the book. When I was a child, the art that I saw was not informed by much knowledge about the artist. I was hearing the stories from the Ramayana and looking at the pictures and sort of seeing how realistically it was portraying the stories. I didn't really know much about Ravi Verma other than the fact that he was from a village called Kilimanur in Kerala. Whereas, when I researched the book and knew more, that he got married at 18, that his wife was 12, that he used to paint when he was a child, that kind of information helped me to come up with the thoughts of the narrator in this book. So, no, they were not necessarily things I think I thought about when I was a child.
Siona, I think that's such a brilliant question. Shobha, one thing that totally stood out for me as well when I was reading the book were all these observations that could come through the girl.
Right,
One was about how Raja Ravi Verma would wake up really early in the morning and keep working till 5 in the evening. And while
right.
most people would just process it as information, I could see even my daughter asking and completely portrayed in that child that then who was managing the housework. And there is a note which
Exactly.
says that wife and kids must have, supported a lot. And I think those are the kind of questions which really make a difference. Not just reading
Thank
it like
you.
one information booklet, but being able to observe
Well,
and
because an
understand it from
illustrate.
today. Yeah,
Thank you. I'm really delighted that a lot of the things that I genuinely chose to, I deliberately put into the book because I wanted children to feel themselves in the pages of the book. I wanted the questions to be questions that they would think of asking, and I also wanted to reflect that even sometimes the whole sort of luxury of being creative sometimes comes on the backs of other people, or that you need support. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the backs
absolutely.
of staff or others, but to be able to do almost anything in life, we do need the creative spirit, but we need that support. I mean, he was Ravi Verma, I always say, was an incredible emissary and a representative of nationalism in some ways in India, because even though he came from a southern state, he traveled all over India at a time when travel was not easy. And his art traveled to other parts of the world, so India was on the map in other parts of the world. So in many ways, he was like a diplomat without traveling abroad. And this was a time, no trains and planes and all of that. But also, he was fortunate enough to have the resources to travel. He had, as I said, he went. His first temple was, I mean, his first visit to was to Mugambika Temple. I think I say that in the fun facts. And he traveled with a cook or a chef so that he didn't have to
Yeah.
do without his food. So all of that makes life a little bit easier too.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
And just highlighting that that artist's success was not standalone. It's not in isolation. You can look at it. That entire ecosystem was in place. So many things fell in place for him. Like there's this other point in the
Exactly.
book where you talk about
Exactly.
how his sister and brother were also very talented, but they couldn't get the same fame
They
that.
didn't get a chance.
Yeah, so it
Exactly.
was
Exactly.
beautifully. I think it covered all aspects and not just kind of glorifying only one part about how he was so
Thank you.
talented in
Thank
that
you. I
way.
appreciate that it was those aspects were recognized and that children have enjoyed it as well. And so I appreciate that. Thank you.
I also have one more question.
Sure. We
About
will be wrapping up in 5 minutes, right?
you said that you have a lot of other Indian artists in mind you may write about. What artists would you like us to know about and you may write about in the future?
Well, I haven't signed any contracts to write any new artist books because I've got something else. I mean, I've got a few other 4 books in the pipeline that are not. But I had originally, when I thought of Ravi Verma, was looking at artists whose art is in the public domain. What that means is that the art is, you can download it from the internet. It's available to anybody without having to go to get licensing and permission from places. So I had thought at that time when I thought of Ravi Verma, I was thinking of Abhinandranath Tagore, who is Rabindranath Tagore's brother. He was an artist, and I had seen some of his art in books, and so I had imagined that I would write a story about him. I was considering Jamini Roy as well because I really like a lot of the art, and I grew up in Calcutta. I went to school in Kolkata, so I had seen a lot of that art in people's homes, and I he's sort of on the cusp of being in the public domain, but I think the art is by now probably in the public domain. So that was another opportunity. We're related to the artist by marriage to Anjali Ella Menon, the well-known artist who's a contemporary artist today. And I thought at some point when we get to a really modern series of the contemporary artists, I will start with an artist like that who will be easy to approach and ask her if she wouldn't mind sharing some of her art in a story. So those were the people that I was thinking about.
Thank you, Siona, for that wonderful
You're
question.
welcome.
We still have about 3 youngsters, so let's quickly have them ask because they've been waiting. We'll go to
I think,
Yeah.
Archana, let's just try to make it
Very
rapid
rapid.
fire, okay, all of you, because I'm conscious we are holding back
Right,
Shobha for
right.
longer. And I see so many questions in the chat as well. Don't worry, we are going to just put your questions in there. We will try to park it with Shobha even after the call if it is. Yeah, so
Okay,
keep
you
shooting
can
them in.
send it to me as an email or something. We'll work on it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right.
All right, go on.
Thank
kids.
you. Arjun, over to you. Let's keep it short. All right, go ahead, Arjun.
Hello everyone, my name is Arjun. I have a question about Damayanti.
Damayanti? You mean the story Nala Damayanti?
Yeah.
I hope I can. I haven't read that story in a while, so I don't know if I can answer the question.
All right, Arjun, what we'll do is we'll ask Shobha to maybe have a look at that and she will write to us what she feels.
I think, there are Amar Chatra Katha books about Nala Damayanti, so you should be able to find it quite easily.
Then why did Raja Ravi Verma paint it?
So he painted a lot of stories. I mean, art. He did he painted. He began by painting portraits of well-known figures in courtiers and princes and maharajas and maharanis and all of that. Then he went into a series of art that was all from the Puranas and the Ramayana and the Mahabharata and the epics. And so these are all stories that come from Indian mythology. And so that's why he painted them. He painted many realistic scenes from these stories. And if you put them all together, you can almost see the story unfold. So he painted because it interested him. He wanted to share stories, Indian stories with Indians. I mean, to make art interesting to everybody. Tell stories about what we have to share. And this was at the time when the British were still in India, and I think there was a need within the national spirit to want to do something that was very specifically Indian. And this was his way of representing that, I suppose.
Thank you, Shobha. And thank you, Arjun, for that fantastic question. You've made a lot of us think and find out the answers. So that was really good, Arjun. We'll go to Vedika. Vedika, please go ahead and ask a question.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Vedika. I'm from Bangalore. I'm 10 years old. I really like the book, Shobha ma'am. It was very nice. The girl and the bubbles were very relatable, and I really like the book and the illustrations a lot. I have a question. Ma'am, why do you think Raja Ravi Verma painted only women at the first place?
So he didn't paint only women. If you see, even in this book, I've tried to represent some of his paintings of artists. I mean, of well-known men. He's done a painting. Uh, well, okay, let's go back to it this way. Why did he only paint women? Because women were beautiful and he liked to represent them. But he has painted many paintings of men. There was a portrait of Maharaja Sayaji Rao of Baroda that's in the book. There's a painting of a bishop in Padmala in Kerala in the book. There's, of course, the Jatayuvad and the Krishna, and, from mythology. Many of those stories obviously had a male character in those stories as well. So the paintings were not only of women, but he began perhaps because in fact, they say that Ravi Verma helped, create an excitement about the sari, where people who discovered Ravi Verma paintings found uh, sort of a resurgence of interest in the sari as an outfit, because he has done so many beautiful paintings of so many different fabrics and saris from all over India. And he's done it in such a realistic manner where you can see the folds of the saris, you can see the variety, you can see the jewelry in certain regions of India. So, if you look at that last painting, which is called Galaxy of, I don't know if that was my last painting, but there's something called Galaxy of Musicians. All of
Yes.
the women are wearing very different very different saris. They're dressed in distinctive parts of, they represent different parts of India, different instruments and different clothing, different jewelry. But he's so authentic, like the Kerala women, like that green necklace that's on the neck of the Kerala woman is a very typical Kerala piece of jewelry. If you look at some others, the nose rings, etc., it's very typical of that region. So he's really very. He is considered a master of European realism, but with Indian representation, which is really quite remarkable.
Thank you, Shobha.
Okay, ma'am.
And thank you for that lovely question, Vedika. We'll now come to our end of the session. And I know all of you have wonderful questions. Pearl from Sharjah has put in some beautiful questions. And Shobha, I hope that you can go through them when you have the time and tell our youngster more about that.
Sure. Tell me if there's a way to sort of download them from your platform, or you send them to
Sure,
me.
we will make
Yes,
sure.
we'll share them with you. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
please do that.
Before we end, I
Thank
just want to
you.
say that while you've written a book on limericks, that excited a lot of our kids who love limericks too. And we have Harshika Agarwal, who is really keen on sharing a couple of limericks. With your permission, Shobha.
Sure. As we wrap up, and
Hello
that's another
everyone,
book that
my
is
name
fun.
is
Go
Harshika
ahead.
Agarwal. Hello everyone, my name is Harshika Agarwal. I study in class 3.
Yes, Harshika.
And
Go
I
ahead,
would
Harshika.
like to thank Bookosmia for giving me as a speaker. He went to a haunted house and stepped onto a big fat mouse. He bumped into a scary witch who had a curious pitch. He was still waiting for his spouse. Number 2. I went into a pumpkin town which had many clowns. I fell into a pit of bats and met 2 scary cats. I saw mice and never came down. I have a little brother who's smarter than any other. He likes to browse about planets and read about planets. She's always going to be further. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshika.
You're welcome.
And Shobha, we give you for the last word. Thank you so much for being part of it. I know Nidhi also wants to share something. So Nidhi, go ahead. From my side, thank you, Shobha, and thank you to each one of our youngsters who have joined in today. You've truly made this day special for us.
I'm
It was
just
very
conscious
special
of
for me
time.
too.
Thank you so much, Shobha, for making time. Sorry. And we will follow through on email probably. I know so many kids are here who are asking 100 questions. Don't worry, we will go ahead and share them with Shobha. She can answer when she has the luxury of time. And we will
Okay.
stay in touch. There are activities that we do around books. We don't want kids to just forget about it after reading. There are reviews that they do, but more importantly, activities, certain aspects which we would love to pull together from all of our Bookosman kids and share with Shobha sometime, right? All right.
Absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure to meet all of you children. Please keep reading and writing. Think of various things that you can write about. Remember, think of yourself if you get sucked into the pages of your favorite book. How would you write that story? So come up with simple prompts and write stories to yourself. As I forget whether it was not, I think it was Krisha or somebody who asked about jumbled stories, or was it Dhruva who had jumbled ideas and wanted to bring them together? I think there's a story writer in all of you. There's a creative person and an artist in all of you, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Shobha.
Take
Thank you,
care.
everyone.
Bye
Lovely
bye.
speaking to you.
Have a
Thanks,
good day,
everyone.
everyone.
Take care.